I do hope this video finds the right audience because this practice has been one of the biggest catalysts for significant transformation on my own healing and personal growth journey. I coined this term the time machine method when I was on my walk because I'm a huge science fiction nerd and I love anything to do with time travel. And in today's video, we're not only going to be talking about inner child healing, but I want to also call in our future self so that we can create this whole trifecta. Have you ever felt frustrated because there's this misalignment between the way that you are reacting to something or feeling about something or thinking? It doesn't fit with the idea or what you know of yourself. For example, I found in my past experiences that I'm feeling either jealous, insecure, anxious about a partner. The feeling that I get, whoever that is present in the moment that has taken over, feels very childlike. And it never feels like it's the current version of myself. Even though at the time, how I was reacting made me feel small and weak like a child, I knew myself. I was a confident and worthy person. And sometimes what that feels like is this frustration of, even though I have been working on myself for years, even though I read all the books and do all the practices, sometimes these emotional storms or ruminating loops seems out of my control. Most of the time, the fearful, doubtful, shameful, insecure voices we hear in our heads are not of our chronological age. And I believe there is a way to help these younger versions of us or parts of us to feel safe, because that is essentially what they're craving. I'll be really honest, I have always been that person, whether it's conscious or not, that sought out that sense of safety and security within romantic relationships. And as you probably already guessed, it never ends well. Because if there is such a wound in you, no amount of love or affection is going to fill that abyss. If anything, that temporary affection is only going to be a band-aid, and inevitably something will come up and you realize that it just feels like it's never enough. Before we dive into the time machine, I want to drill this one idea into your head. You know how people say we create our reality? And sometimes I've thought that it sounded ridiculous or far-fetched, but in a way it is true. Instead of thinking it in a woo-woo way, like I'm gonna manifest my dream life out of nowhere, think of it like this. The way you frame and condition your mental and emotional operating system has the potential to change how you experience everything. Because it's not just about being positive or being delusional. Human beings are sense-making machines, and we all have to make sense from a very own unique perspective. Choosing to reframe or decondition your perspective is a learned skill, and it is one that we are empowered to modify and refine so that it best benefits ourselves and those around us. If we're being honest, we never experience reality or an event or a person as it is, as they are. We experience our own interpretation of them. This is why if we get our own house in order, we've probably solved about 70% or more of our existing problems. Okay, I'm very loosely paraphrasing Dr. Peter Levine. All of us have had small or large traumatic events in our past. But trauma isn't about what happened. It's about what we continue to hold on to. And what we hold on to, whether conscious or unconscious, is what continues to shape our experience and our interpretation of reality. Let's get into the time machine. I'll be combining concepts from inner child work, which again was originally coined by Carl Jung, and I'll also be using some concepts from the internal family system, which is founded by Richard Schwartz. So today I'm going to give you two practices. One is for real time, like right after you've had an experience or you're having an experience where you're a bit shaken up and you want to invite your higher self or that presence back into this moment. And the second practice is for when you can set aside some time to reconnect with your inner child and perhaps heal some of your past wounds. This real time practice has given me tremendous results. For example, let's say I get into an argument at the checkout line with some lady and I've driven home and I just can't seem to stop playing this loop in my head. What I should have said to her, how dare her behave that way, how stupid they were, and how upset I feel. I'm shaken up. First, always, we want to take some deep inhales and even longer exhales so that we can turn on our parasympathetic nervous system. So that everything feels a little bit more settled. Next, what I do is I'll visualize extracting that upset part of me and placing her next to me. And just naturally, without you forcing to do so, typically that part will come out and she or he will be younger than the version of you right now. I don't know why sometimes I like to imagine sitting on a bench next to her. If I'm driving, maybe she's in the passenger seat. If I'm walking, I might be holding her hand. And every time that I've done this, I have felt an immediate decrease in that emotional storm intensity. It's like this sense of relief. And I think this is what the Buddhist or the mindful meditation practices say or mean when they say creating space and distance between your thoughts and your self, the ever-present, grounded, you can call it a higher self. And this practice is so fun because it is like you're being a wizard and you're just doing this magic show with your mind, and you're able to manipulate and fine tune, but at the same time, you're validating and acknowledging the things that you're feeling. You're not disassociating. So I'll say something to my younger self next to me, and I'll let her know, hey, love, I know that was a shocking experience for you. You didn't expect it to happen on your way to the grocery store. I know you feel upset. And she was being really unreasonable. And around this time is when I typically will see my younger self like going, like nodding her head or sniffling sometimes, like, oh, yeah, life is so unfair, that younger version of you, or just feeling sort of relieved to be acknowledged. And so you just allow a natural dialogue to happen. Imagine you're stepping into the role of an elder sibling or a parental figure, whatever works best for you. And you just listen to her and let her know, hey, I'm here. I've got you. I've got this. You don't need to be afraid. That wasn't a real threat. This person truly doesn't have any effect on your life and doesn't need to have an effect on your day. But if you're feeling upset, I'm here to listen to you. What I find most often, once we get to a certain point, I'll go, hey, is it possible that we can let this experience go? If I've said it in this very kind and encouraging or nurturing way, I find that most often, very quickly, that inner child will say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to let it go too. So whenever we do this practice, two things happens. First thing is that inner child, or the part of us that is feeling upset, begins to feel calmer and safer. And most often will be willing to let this experience go. The second thing that happens is that we get to experience our higher self, our mature self, our gracious self. And it is a practice that helps you be able to embody that version of you more and more often than not. But I will say, you'll find that this practice is a lot easier with the lady at the grocery store versus someone like when you're fighting with someone you care about, like a family member or a romantic partner. So when we do this practice, we're tapping into this presence that is always accessible to us. As we gain more life experiences, we are meant to mature and become this grounded, centered version of the adult that we know we are. The goal here truly is to create more delay between the thing that's happening and our reaction so that we can respond instead of allowing our emotions or our thoughts to take over. The second practice is going to require us setting some time aside, and we're going to get into a more meditative visualization practice. And this is meant to help heal or reintegrate either our inner child versions of them or parts of us that are in a way stuck in these various moments in our past due to a unpleasant or negative experience, and we've held on to that. For example, maybe you are now an adult that is fearful of making new friends, or perhaps you feel social anxiety, or maybe you just don't trust that even your friends really like who you are because in the past you were bullied and your peers made you feel rejected and ashamed. I actually recorded a guided meditation years ago. I'll try to find it and link it down below if I have it. So essentially we want to get into a meditative state. So again, please remember to just get yourself in a state and in a space that feels safe. And what we want to do is begin to visualize a particular event that happened in the past that was unpleasant. I would really advise you to choose something, if this is your first time doing it, not anything too intense, just something that maybe a moment where you felt alone, maybe a moment where you wish someone was there for you. Don't go into the crazy stuff right away. So what we want to do basically is set up a scene where we can see what was happening in that moment at that time in the past. And we're also inviting our present version of us into that movie. And we're going to essentially rewrite the script of what happened. In this example that I gave, imagine you remember a scene where a group of kids were bullying you when you were younger and you were scared and you felt afraid. Now you're going to visualize the adult version of you stepping onto the scene and basically being like the big brother or big sister for that kid and telling those kids to F off. When I'm visualizing this, what I see is then the younger version of me will start to run towards me, sort of as a beacon that this person is here to support me, to back me up. Essentially, what we're trying to do isn't to change or erase the past, but what we're trying to do is reintroduce this more confident adult version of us back into that scene and be there for that younger version of us that wanted someone but didn't have. Coaxing, but we're also showing them and reassuring them that the support is here now. You don't have to feel scared of being bullied again. That is in the past. We are here now as a team to have your back and to support you. I've done this practice plenty of times before. There's a particular scene that I had of myself where I was around maybe 5 or 6 years old, and I was kneeling on the ground because I was incredibly scared and I felt very lonely. I didn't know what was going to happen. I would picture the scene and I would imagine the version of me today stepping into that scene and just holding her and reassuring her and saying to her, listen, I know you're going through a lot of pain right now, but look at me. We are here. I am here for you now because you courageously braved the storm. I know how hard and challenging it was for you in this moment, but trust me, everything worked out for the best. I would have not had the amazing adventure in life that I've had unless you had this horrible experience. And even though you felt so alone at that time, I'm here now. I'm here for you. Let me hold you. And when I've had this experience, it literally made me bawl my eyes out in like the most beautiful way, because not only did I get to experience the adult version of me being this unconditionally loving parent to the child version of me, I also got to re-experience that child version of me having someone to hold her, having someone to tell her, don't be afraid, don't be alone, trust me, everything is going to work out. Look at me, I am the proof that it did. This is honestly really powerful stuff if you are able to get into this state of visualization. You can try journaling it as well, but I truly have found that using this mind movie to project the past and to go in and to be there for yourself and offer that love, offer that care is incredibly transformative and powerful. It's not to say that it's going to heal all of our problems, but you will feel a shift. There is almost this intimate connection between the past, future, and present self coming together as a whole unit. You are building trust with yourself and reminding the younger you how brave and courageous they were to brave the storm so that you can be here today. And even if the today is not perfect, the future you that you're dying to meet, they're waiting for you. And they feel exactly the same way about you as you do for your younger version, full of gratitude, trust, and love. The future you knows that they exist because of the efforts that you're putting in today, because you're choosing to be brave and courageous and keep going. The time machine isn't a time machine unless it goes both ways. So this is where I want to include another portion, which is this accessing our future self. Your future self is going to have wisdom that you've not yet embodied. Maybe when you're in meditation, you're not hearing word by word advice from your future self. Maybe that's too much for you. You're just going to think you're imagining it. If you have that access, amazing. But if you're someone that's more like me, instead of thinking you're asking for word by word advice from your future self, you can access how they feel. Maybe they're more confident than where you are today. Maybe they're more successful than where you are today. Maybe they're just more joyful and grounded in how you want to feel more of. You can absolutely tap into how the future version of you feels. Whenever I've felt uncertain about my future and I tried this type of meditation or visualization, even though my future self isn't able to offer me practical advice, what the sense I get of is she trusts me. She is letting me know that she exists because I have done the work and the things that I needed to do to get to that version. If this does sound challenging for you, there is something I've been doing since 2019, which is from a website. Basically, you write a letter to your future self and it gets delivered to you at however many years you want down the line. So you pretty much forget that this letter exists until the day that it gets back into your inbox. Just putting yourself in that position of saying, hey, here's where I am today. I imagine you might be in this place by the time you read this. I'm not sure, but I hope for all these things for you. Just that experience of writing and imagining a more aligned future of yourself is so incredibly powerful. Remember, when you're doing the time machine work, you are a wizard, you are a magician. And even though we cannot change the past, the essence and the energies and the perspectives of who you are as a person, how you're affected by your past, and how you're inspired by your future, all those elements you can time travel through. You can invite the whole team to share and to remind yourself of the small and large achievements that you have made and forgotten. Because often than not, we truly forget our own capabilities and we forget our worthiness because you're not really clinging onto all the achievements and all the challenges you've braved through. We're thinking ahead of all the things we don't yet have or all the things that we're inadequate at. But by doing this practice of checking in with your past self and your future self creates this almost tunnel of memories of seeing, look how far I've come. And because I've seen all of this and am reminded, I know I can continue to go forward. Even though sometimes it feels like there's always more room to grow, we have already become the future versions of us that the past version would have admired. And our future self would be in awe of our current perseverance and everything we're doing today just to get to meet her. It is such a loving practice that affirms your worthiness in the things that you're currently doing to reach your goals, in the things that you're doing to get through all the challenges you might face, for the little you and for the future you that is waiting and rooting for you. I really try my best not to over explain in these videos, even though I really want to. But if sometimes you ever feel like there's more juice you want to squeeze out of the fruit, so to speak, please do feel free to join my Modern Pen Pal list. I'm working on some products and services for those of you that are interested in diving way deeper. And if you have done this practice, please feel free to share, if you're comfortable, in the comments below how it was like for you. If at any time you're unable to watch the videos, there's always a podcast version of it, so I'll link everything down below. Until next time.